for my occasional detour into fantasy board gaming, today we talk about Defenders of the Realm. It's pretty big box, as you can see, quite a presence on your shelf. Beautiful box too, but everything that is in the box is beautiful too. Really great components here. Defenders of the Realm, a fantasy cooperative game for 1 to 4 players. The players take the role of the archetypical fantasy characters, the paladin, the rogue, the wizard, etc., and they fight against a horde of enemy generals and minions that are attacking the land, and in particular attacking Monarch City. It's a cooperative game, but there's a rule in here that says that at the end of the game, after the heroes have fought together against the enemies, there will be only one winner. We always ignore that rule. It just feels completely foreign to the game. It just goes against the spirit of cooperation that the game requires, so we played as a fully cooperative game. As a fully cooperative game, I really enjoyed a lot. I think it's a very interesting game. It borrows ideas from Pandemic, but I like this one much better than Pandemic. But don't take my word for it. Let's take a closer look to the game. This is the board for the game, and what you see here is also the initial setup. The board represents the fantasy land where the action will take place, and the board looks really nice. However, it has many locations, and it took me a while to familiarize with where everything is, but it can definitely be done. In the middle of the map, you have the most important location, which is Monarch City, which is the area that the players will try to defend against the attacks of the enemies. This is also the areas where the players will start the game placing their miniatures there. Then you have in four specific areas of the map, the 4 enemy generals that are really the big bad guys of the game. You have a red enemy general, a scary looking black one, then you have the green one, and the big blue one, the big blue dragon. Each of these generals has a track that goes from the starting position of the general and leads all the way to Monarch City, and these generals will move along these tracks and will try to reach Monarch City during the game. Also, as you can see, there are enemy minions scattered all over the map. At the beginning, you will use a random system to determine their initial position, and during the game more minions will be added to the map all the time. They just keep pouring in. The players have several ways in which they can lose the game. They lose the game if there are 5 enemy minions in Monarch City. They lose the game if an enemy general ever reaches Monarch City. They lose the game if they're instructed to add a minion of a certain color to the board, but there aren't any minions left in the pool for that color. Then they lose the game. Also, when the minions reach a certain concentration in a certain area, they will produce this tainted crystal that will be placed in that area, and when all the tainted crystals in the pool of the game are added to the board and there aren't any left, then the players also lose the game. The only way in which they can win is by defeating all 4 enemy generals. Each character has a miniature that goes on the board, and then each character also has a card detailing the special abilities that that character has. And those abilities usually are pretty good. Of course, they allow you to do special actions, special things. Also, each character has a number of life points indicated on the card. The characters have life points between 4 and 6, and you will place a life point token on the card of the character for each of the points indicated by the card. Then, during a turn, a character will execute actions by spending life points. Each action has a specific cost, and you just keep executing actions and more or less any combination of actions until you have tokens available, and then next turn you get all your life tokens back. However, if for any reason your character gets wounded, then the character loses life tokens, so you place them off the board. But luckily enough, one of the actions that you can take is to heal, and in that case, if you heal your character, you get your action tokens back. The heroes also have another resource which is combined with the life tokens to execute actions, and that resource is the deck of hero cards, quite a substantial deck. Each hero card is divided in 3 areas. top area is used for transportation, and it can have the symbol of a magic gate or a horse or an eagle. I'll explain later how those work exactly. In the middle of the card you have a location, and that is used for several effects, and at the bottom of each hero card you have a enemy general, and that means that that card can be used to attack that specific enemy general. However, a card can be used to perform only one of these actions. So if you use a card for transportation, then you cannot use it to attack an enemy general, and the other way around. The characters really have a large number of actions that they can choose from, which is great because they can execute any of these actions in any order, and most of these actions can be executed as many times as the player wants in a turn, so you really have a lot of options in the way you want to use your actions, and you want to create different sequences of actions during your turn. A character can move by foot, that is the character spends one life point and moves to an adjacent location, or the character can move by horse by discarding a card that has a horse on it, and with the expenditure of a life point the character can move by 2 spaces. Same idea with the eagle. You spend an action, discard a card with an eagle, and then you can move by 4 spaces. Pretty good. The character can move by magic gate, and this is really where the game reminds me of Pandemic. The player can discard a card with a magic gate and then can teleport his character to the location indicated on the card. In this case, a character will be able to teleport from anywhere on the board to Bounty Bay, or from anywhere on the board to a location that has a magic token on it. At the beginning of the game you only have a magic token gate on the board, which is there, but then the players are allowed to build other ones. In fact, a player can discard a card with the location where the player is in and spend an action to build a new magic gate in that location, and if that happens then the players can spend magic gate cards to travel from magic gate to magic gate. And there really are many other actions that the characters can take. They can go to the inn and try to acquire extra hero cards. They can heal the land, that is, they can remove tinted crystals, they can heal themselves, and very important, they can attack enemy minions. When they are in the same space where there are enemy minions, the character can declare the attack action, then the character will roll a die for each enemy minion there. The color of the die matches the color of the minion. All the dice are the same, but it is just in case you have minions of different colors, then you know which die applies to which minion. And minions have different numbers to hit. To hit a red minion you need a 4, a black minion a 4, a blue minion a 5, they're pretty tough, and a green minion a 3. They're kind of like the wimpiest of the game. You roll, if you roll that number of high, you eliminate the corresponding minion, otherwise nothing happens, and you can attack again as many times as you want and as you have actions. The barbarian here has attacked these 3 minions. Well, one is dead, but one is still there. If at the end of a turn a character is in the same space as one or more minions, then the character loses a life token for each minion that is there. If there also are black minions, which represent the scary undead, then the character loses an extra life point just because the undead are gonna scare the bejesus out of the character. If one or more characters are in the same area with an enemy general and there are no enemy minions, then the active character could spend an action to trigger an attack against the enemy general. And in order to attack the general, the players will need to spend cards that will give them dice that they can roll against that general. Luckily enough, the characters that are in the same area can put together their cards to launch a combined attack, because otherwise it's going to be very hard to defeat an enemy general. Suppose that one of those 2 characters has collected these cards and the other character has collected these cards, then they get together, they put the cards together, and they'll be able to roll 4 and 6 dice against that general. Each general has a card with a little bit of background information, with combat skills that the general will use during combat, with a number to hit, which is the number to hit that general and the minions of that color, and with a life track and a token that you use to record the level of life that the general has. The players will attack the general by spending cards and rolling dice. For each time that they hit the general loses a point of health. Again, some of the combat skills can be used during combat. This general, for example, only has skills that are used after combat if he's not defeated. Other generals will use combat skills during combat. If during combat the general goes down to 0 points of life, then the general is defeated. The hero that dealt the final blow flips the card over, takes the card, and can use the special abilities that are granted for being the slayer of that general. However, unfortunately, if the players have played all their cards and roll all their dice and the general is not down to 0 points of life, then the general survives and will start regenerating. Different generals will regenerate at different rates. This one, for example, regenerates all of its points of life immediately. Other generals will take a little longer. After a player is done performing action, then the player receives 2 hero cards, and then the player must flip a darkness spreads card that indicates what the enemies are doing that turn. Most of these cards will have 2 locations on them and a certain number of minions indicated. So first thing, you have to add that number color of minions to that location. And in pure pandemic style, the minions may outbreak. You can never have more than 3 minions in a location. If you are instructed to add the 4th one, instead of adding a 4th one, you add the tainted crystal, just indicates that the concentration is so unhealthy that the land is poisoned. And also you add a minion of the color that you were supposed to add to each location adjacent to that location. It is really a sort of pandemic outbreak. So you place those minions, and sometimes these outbreaks can trigger a chain of other outbreaks. And then you look at the bottom of the card that indicates possible general movements. You will have the picture of a general and a location on the track of that general. If the general is in the location adjacent to that one, then the general moves into that location, so advances towards Monarch City, and also the general will add a minion or the number of minions that is indicated there to that location. At the beginning of the game, each player will flip a Darkness Spreads card at the end of each turn. After the players have eliminated 1 or 2 enemy generals, then the players will have to flip 2 Darkness Spreads cards at the end of each turn, so the remaining enemies become more aggressive. When only a general is left on the board, then each player will have to flip 3 Darkness Spreads cards. I started filming my review in my office on campus, and I decided that I would film the conclusions as I'm walking home so I can share a little bit of the beautiful campus of Indiana University Bloomington. Now, the game is really good. The components are excellent. The rules are well laid out and are pretty clear. There are a lot of options that you have to learn, but then once you learn them, well, the payoff is considerable because you can really create a lot of different sequences of actions. You have a lot of characters. Each character has many different powers, and getting to know the characters and getting to know how you can combine the abilities of the characters effectively so that you can really have them working as a team is a great thing, is a great fun. You will see that certain characters are still overall more powerful than others, so then you can use certain combinations of characters to alter the difficulty of the game in any way that you want. You can have a harder game, an easier game, but overall it is a very engaging and fun game. I'm getting a little tired here, but I got to walk fast because the babysitter won't be home forever. So it is a very interesting game. Love the theme. The game is just so full of theme. There's a lot of game in here. There are a lot of different things that you can do. It is a fun game. I definitely think that I will be playing this game instead of Pandemic. I like this game much better than Pandemic, both the better game, the basic game, and even with the On the Brink expansion, the pretty dishes are pretty cool. Still, Defenders of the Realm is another category as the Pandemic for the grown-ups. I like this game a lot. I would recommend it to anybody who's looking for a fantasy game, for a cooperative game. A lot of fun, interesting from beginning to end. Maybe starts a little slow at the beginning because the generals are a little lazy, but then they start getting mad at you and they start advancing, then things start getting really complicated on the board, so it becomes more and more exciting as the game progresses. Again, big thumbs up from me. It is a very good game. I'd recommend it.